Hey, this is Dr. Drew, and you were listening to This Life
with Bob Forrest
and Dr. Drew.
Here we are. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the UBN Radio TV Broadcasting Universal Live Network with Dr. Drew and Bob and This Life.
Everything good with you?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's weird getting to Hollywood on a Sunday, I'll tell you that.
It's better than during the week, I must tell you.
Not in the Diamond Lane. I'm used to the Diamond Lane. I got 2 kids. I just go, even when they're not in the car, I just go.
Let's get right to our guest. We've got this is a really important conversation, and I'm glad you're having this here with us, Bob, because you and I have been dealing. I was
homeless, and I know about the homeless.
And we've been dealing with this population, you and I, for years. So we've got Kathryn Barger. She is the LA County officially 5th District Supervisor for Los Angeles County, and we have Herb Smith, CEO of the Los Angeles Mission. Kathryn, Herb, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in with us.
Yeah, and Kathryn, I want to go to you first. Well, first I want to thank both of you for the work you're doing. I mean, I just want those of us that are trying to make a difference to pile in the same boat and start rowing real hard. And you two have been at the head of at the helm, so I appreciate it. But Kathryn, in Los Angeles County, we have a health crisis. We now have. Are you aware of this, Bob? We have a typhus outbreak now.
Yeah, I know.
And I've been predicting it for 6 months, and now we're in it. And Kathryn's been calling for things like expanding conservatorship and gravely disabled for quite some time. Where are we now, Kathryn?
Well, the good news is that the legislation by Henry Stern and Weiner from San Francisco passed through the Senate and has been signed by the governor. So conservatorships, we're going to be able to expand those.
Oh my God.
We're going to be putting resources into the county to do that.
That's
bad news for me is that I had legislation that I was pushing that would have expanded the definition of gravely disabled, because Herb will tell you there are people that, especially down on Skid Row, that are declining health care, that are just one winter away from being found dead on the street.
Yeah,
because of their mental illness, they are refusing treatment.
I thought, Kathryn, they had expanded, or we were on the eve of expanding to the point where we could provide medical care if people's mental illness got in the way of their ability to consent to the medical care. Is that not true?
That it passed out of the Assembly 75-0, which there were people that didn't think it'd make it out of health. But when it got to the Senate, they added a provision in there that they knew would not be constitutionally able to be enforced. And so we had to pull it out, and we're going to start again next year. And I talked to Henry Stern, and we're going to go for it. I mean, the time has come. I tell people we've got this Measure H tax that's in place for 10 years. We're 2 years into it, and if we don't address the mental health component of homelessness, people are going to feel like they got ripped off in 8 years.
Well, Bob, you and I haven't talked too much about this, and for people around the country, just what we're trying to do here on this pod today is expose you all to what's going on in Los Angeles and San Francisco, which is a crisis of proportions you can't imagine. If you're from around the country, you literally can't imagine. When friends come visit me from other states here, they're bewildered. They literally can't believe what they're seeing.
Yeah, and I'm interested in Herb. You've been dealing with this population for decades, isn't it? It seems to me, since say 2008, the population has doubled. It has to have.
Way more than that.
What is the increase in homeless that you're seeing downtown on San Julian Street in particular? Around 5 o'clock when they do the admissions into the Mission is one of the saddest places in all of America. And I wish I've tried to get news cameras to go down there and show the children walking in with their homeless parents, in just thousands of people walking in to just get one night's housing.
Hey, those are the ones that will walk in.
Oh, I know.
Those are the ones that will walk in. Yes, and I'd like to underscore what the supervisor said about mental health. We experience so many individuals who come to us maybe for day services, showers, and so forth, but really have significant mental health challenges, and we have got to find a way as a community to get them off the street. I have dealt with that with my own brother going through mental health issues, and only because they had a family to support him and get through the red tape were we able to keep him from the street. But I see this every day, hundreds of people who really need help, and we've got to find a way to change what we're doing, or we're not going to end homelessness.
So in Los Angeles, our mayor particularly has taken the politically expedient sort of headline that it's a housing problem. We need more housing. Need more. It's too expensive to live here. These poor people lost their rent, and that's on the street. No, there is that population that are couch surfing and temporarily living in cars and things like that. That population, though, is getting sort of served. That population is getting action, getting traction. It's the ones that are on the street that are so severely mentally ill, which is the ones you see all over Los Angeles and Hollywood and Venice. Those are the ones that their illness makes them loses insight and loses willingness and trust, willingness to get care and trust in those who can deliver care. And when somebody's illness gets in the way of that, believe me, when they're treated, and Herb, you know this, of course, and then they get treated and they look back, they're pissed. Like, who let me stay like that? Are you kidding? Why was I allowed to be like that in my disease? And now we have a bigger problem, which is now there are infectious disease outbreaks around this, which is inevitable. Kathryn, I don't understand how the city of Los Angeles can allow the sanitation to deteriorate to the point it is without somebody, CDC or somebody who's responsible for the functioning of civilization, to step up and go, hey, this is going to harm people.
Well, downtown Skid Row, it was an outbreak of typhus. It's classified as outbreak. Pasadena, we've had about 15 cases. Long Beach, not as many, but still a number significant enough to draw concern. And when I drive through Skid Row, and I do, it makes my stomach turn. There are third world countries that would not even recognize what's going on down there. It is absolutely, you've got predators down there. You can always tell the first of the month because you have the dealers and all coming down, picking up people's EBT benefit cards and using, the money off of those, selling drugs. It's become an area of lawlessness. And I'm all about compassion. I am all about compassion. But I think compassion is also recognizing that we have a moral and ethical obligation to get these people off the street.
So Bob and I have compassion for our patients, but we're kicking their ass all the time, right?
I said it 10, 15 years ago once they closed the big, cool, I always call it the General Hospital, the County USC that you did residency in, right?
Yeah.
When they closed that building, I said, perfect, let's retool it as a homeless shelter and a mental health facility. Mm-hmm. We're Los Angeles. We can do anything because that's the most beautiful building in Los Angeles. It just sits there now.
Well, no, they use it for administrative stuff.
Yeah, but
and understand, to Supervisor Hilda Solis's credit, she is looking at repurposing that. The problem's going to be, and I know you're going to have a guest on from Venice. When I go out, people say, we want you to fix this problem. And then when you begin to try to address supportive housing, which includes, mental health and substance abuse services, people are saying, wait, I don't want it here. But the reality is, I don't know about Venice, but I do know in my district, a lot of those individuals have family or connections to the areas where they're sleeping.
Sure.
Not all, but most. And, our goal is to, at least with the typhus, is to go out there and give them a choice. We're going to have all the supportive services, showers and all, but we're going to clean up these areas because it is now becoming a public health crisis.
It's an emergency.
It's an emergency. It has been for years.
The only reason humans can congregate in cities is sanitation. And we've allowed that to completely unravel, and there will be infectious disease outbreaks. I've been predicting typhus for 6 months, so now here are the typhus. The next thing will be epidemic typhus, which is a lice-borne thing, goes human to human. We haven't seen that in this country since the Civil War, but we will see it soon if we don't do something.
Well, what Kathryn's bringing up is, how are we going to solve this problem together? So you have, I'm wondering, who represents the Skid Row district? Is it, what is that? District
Mark Ridley Thomas. Mark Ridley Thomas, for the most part, I think, right,
okay.
Herb?
Yes.
So I'm wondering what those people who bought those $2.5 million lofts think of the lack of sanitation, people urinating in their doorways and defecating between their cars. Which is traditionally, let's face it, a very liberal, progressive population that lives in those expensive lofts downtown. What do they think should be done about this? What have they been voicing to politicians?
Well, I don't represent the area. I do know that it got a lot of attention because what we're finding, and actually the day this all hit, there's an individual who lives on the corner of Temple and Grand, and I was so frustrated and angry. I went out with my staff and I was talking to him, and I know enough to know when to back off. And when he said "get out of my face," he meant get out of my face. They become very violent very quickly, and so I think that what's more concerned the people living down there is the amount of violence taking place regarding some of the homeless individuals. Not every day, but that's a real concern for the individuals that are living down there.
You put when people stay on meth longer, they get more violent. That's the bottom line. So the meth has been in there for a while, and so you're necessarily going to see more violence. The old term "speed kills" from the 70s. I talked to the guys that created that aphorism, and they said, "Oh no, we didn't mean to say that speed
kills the person, kills other people.
People on speed kill. That's what they mean." And speed is the drug of violence, and so that's where a lot of that comes from.
And it's the most inexpensive drug.
Yeah, it's around
and I'd be curious to get Herb. I went out, Herb's take on this. I went out to UCLA and was talking to them, and it was really refreshing because I've always said, if we don't get to what the root cause of the increase is, we're never going to get ahead of this. And I really do believe between AB 109, Prop 47, and AB 57, which are all public safety, and then Prop 47 really decriminalize the use of drug use. I think it's created the perfect storm.
Yeah.
And we are enabling individuals who have really done their time, are out of prison. We're enabling them to get back in trouble because we are putting laws, we're throwing out laws that actually provided consequences for bad behavior.
Yeah, drug court and things like that. So we're in a mess, but I'm always, I've tried to radicalize the center. Like as I've grown older, I've become more conservative like most people do. So I understand the left. I understand your activist and your liberal.
but they're making
I understand the left.
But they're demanding things that are killing people and endangering.
No, they're not going to see it like that. I can guarantee you.
People
I know
languishing on the street, and then endangering.
No, that's rich people's problem, according to progressives.
Right. And then endangering the entire population.
I'm just telling you, your argument against their argument is what we've been doing for 10 years, and it's not working. So we have somebody here, Kathryn and Herb. You've been fighting the good fight down there for decades, right? What do you guys?
And we look at homelessness one life at a time. We do homelessness differently, perhaps, but I will tell you from the people that have been homeless and come and talk to me about the issue, part of it is we allow behaviors to occur on the street that we wouldn't allow elsewhere. And they say, when we were on the street, whatever you allowed us to do, that's what we're going to do.
Sure.
And there's got to be some attempt to say enough is enough on behalf of the individuals on the street, not always looking at them as victims. Many of them are, but many of them are not. And I think the ones causing the most trouble are sometimes the ones who are there to take advantage of others. They're the drug dealers, et cetera, the pimps, and all the behavior that goes on with that. We've got to help some of these people, rescue some of these people from the streets. And that's what Daily Mission does, and many other organizations downtown as well. It is not, however, a simple one-size-fits-all simple solution.
Sure.
It's not simply housing. It's not simply a service. It's addressing all of the above. But housing is, at the end of the road, the biggest issue and the biggest driver of homelessness.
Okay,
well,
so do your argument, Drew.
But wait a minute.
You just said it.
Okay, but all those people with chronic mental illness, they won't come to the housing.
There isn't housing for them,
not
long-term housing.
But no, I understand that's a problem. But if you had it, so you're saying, okay, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that we have to have that and we have to have the other services.
Yes.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to have
not an either or.
Yeah.
I totally it has to be an integration of thought and leadership. That's what I keep thinking. And I'm hard pressed to find people that don't want to just argue and blame the other side. I mean, that's the kind of society we've become.
Well, no, Kathryn's been out there just trying to stop this. Just do something good. She's shown leadership, and she's.
I'm not saying her. I'm saying how our politics. You attacked my friend Eric Garcetti. He's my friend. I helped him get on his first city council.
I'm not saying he's a bad guy.
You just criticized him and
I'm
said,
criticized him.
Yeah. So
I wanted to be held accountable for harming people.
That's like so mean. He's harming people. You know what I mean? That's the politic we have.
If I made
that's your opinion that he's harming people.
I'll say this: that they were sued. The city was sued.
They're sued,
and so because they felt they were taking civil liberties, and so I believe that Mayor Garcetti is looking to address this. And Herb, I think from what I've heard, he is reaching out to a lot of the businesses down in Skid Row to try to address this because it's impacting quality of life.
It's endangering them. This is a public health crisis, and if we don't approach it as that, we are really, Bob, as a physician, if I made decisions that harmed people, I would be held accountable. And I'm telling you, this is a public health crisis, and people that aren't dealing with it with the urgency that it requires are harming people, period.
Listen, so I understand what you're saying, and follow me. What Herb is saying is what he and I are dealing with every day. Long-term housing is where are these people going to go? Okay, we clean up the streets. Get Garcetti to call sanitation, clean up all the streets, get all the people in the lockdown facilities.
No, not lockdown.
That's what you have to do with the psychotics and mentally ill people.
Well, if they're that
you're going to have
to, they need to be in lockdown. Then we got a different problem. But we do. You do have those temporary housing units, right? Are they being used properly?
Temporary housing units.
Herb, you remember when we had the single occupancy residents down on Skid Row that got pushed out for all the lofts?
Yeah.
You could buy a room, and this is what I'm pushing now is. We're building all these apartments that are costing us $400,000 an apartment, kitchen, bathroom, all that. I argue we need to get back to the SRO model, which is a common room with a toilet and then common living areas, and start building them. You can build them for a lot less than $400,000 a unit.
Right.
I would agree. And many of the people who come to us, particularly the men, the veterans, prefer almost that dormitory lifestyle. They don't know how to function many of them in an individual living unit, particularly those that have been on the street for years. I jokingly say they don't even know how to use a microwave. They put the aluminum foil in and turn it on.
Right.
That's some of the individuals we work with every day. And to the people who just became homeless because they couldn't afford the rent last month.
So would you say the typical individual that you're talking about needs about 9 months in your program? Isn't your program 9 months?
We do a 12-month program. Not everybody needs 12. Many of them do, but we have 4 phases. And what we do is try to address the critical need and the felt need of the individual when they come to us, whether it's work, whether it's education. We do GEDs. We work with them in career, job development. We're a holistic approach, an emotional, spiritual health approach as well. But our goal is not to put people in GR, not to put them in SROs, or Section 8 vouchers even. It's to help them become independent to the extent that they can. And then we backfill with those other government services that are available and they should be entitled to.
But to Herb's point, I want to say to Herb's point. So here's what we're arguing here, which is that we need a place, and that place should be much like the mission, provide acute services, psychiatric services, spiritual services, vocational rehabilitation, nursing services, medical and physician services, and then some sort of transition to a lower level of care, right? Mm-hmm. Can you think of other places, the names of places that fit that description?
There's dozens of them.
Okay, but what would that place? What would
all of you?
Yeah, they're called
all the missions.
Correct. They're called
Los Encinas Hospital.
Right, they're called psychiatric hospitals.
Right,
and for some reason, because that's like, oh no, not that. We're going to have to call them. We're going to have to call them.
I think it's more than just liberals saying, "Oh, not that." I don't think and Kathryn brought this up. Nobody wants to pay for that. That's very costly.
Well, you know what? You're going to pay. You're either going to, if you go to our jails, we're all paying for it right now.
Yeah.
They're all in our jails.
That's right.
And if you think they're coming out better than when they went in, as much as I would love to say we're providing top of the care,
I did.
We are bleeding.
And George, there are other states that have models where you can push them into mental health services, and they do a lot better. Kathryn, I know you've got to go, I'm going to let you go. We're going to keep her, but the last things you want to say about what you're planning.
Yeah, I want to say this, and Herb, I appreciate the work you do. Faith-based homeless programs. If you look at Door of Hope in Pasadena, and all, we know they work. I'm working to try to secure the money because right now there is a roadblock as it relates to faith-based getting any county money. I brought in a motion with Supervisor Solis regarding foster youth so we can really use more faith-based agencies to address homes. We're going to do the same with the homeless because you are and have been an incredible partner doing truly things that the county, is so grateful for. And I know I personally am. So I want to thank you for your work and see how we can work with you.
Yep, that's great.
Well, thank you to you and the other supervisors, Phil Ansell, who's leading the charge on this. I'm just happy to be part of the community and trying to make a difference.
All right. So stay tuned. We'll all be in touch again.
And
okay?
hold on. And Bob, I want you to have a relationship with Kathryn because she is. You asked for leadership. She is leading. And thank you, Kathryn. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
And I want to remind everybody that when Herb has got a fundraiser this Thursday, October 25th, at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, 6 p.m., it's the Help, Hope, and Opportunity 8th Annual Legacy of Vision Gala. So if you want to support the LA mission, which has been doing God's work for a long time, you want to be a part of the solution, please, there's a place you can come
and you
support
got Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, which they always do. Greatest service downtown.
Herb, could you tell us where you can donate if you can't make it to the event?
Yes, we'd love to have you do that. You can go to love18.givesmart.com is the website. Or you can always go and find out more about the Los Angeles Mission at thelosangelesmission.org.
Let me ask this question this way, and I mean this purely as a thought experiment. If we were to deal with the homeless problem effectively by using your model, how many of your models would we need to reproduce? How many of your units would we need to reproduce to be able to actually handle the population at large? Like 5 more? 4 more? You know what I'm asking?
That's an interesting question. I know what you're asking. Well, there's 53,000 people that are homeless in LA. I would say probably a third or maybe a half of them would benefit specifically from our model, intensive model. Many of the others would benefit. We've actually added a bridge housing program, a break it to make it program for anti-recidivism. Individuals coming out of prison that need a first new start. We actually are really pleased to say we have one 4.0 student at LA Community College getting his drug and alcohol certification, going back to Arizona to his reservation as a drug and alcohol counselor.
Great.
So those are the kinds of things that we say, this is a person you would have kicked on the street or spit at or maybe thrown a dime into the cup. And now he's an upstanding citizen. So we don't believe that people are endlessly homeless.
No. So let's be optimistic. So that's the half. And so what do you do but the psychotic people are the people that we're talking about.
Well, the drug addicts,
they can't go to the mission, and there's no place for them to go. Right?
Right.
Isn't that
and there's
correct?
Probably 15 to 20% of that total that need intensive mental health. We do have a new state program that is available for housing for mental health and housing, trying to get some of the highest utilizers of public services into housing.
But those are the guys those are the ones using public service. We're talking about 20,000 people on the streets who are dangerously psychotic. I'm going to bring in Rick Swinger. Rick, you're from Venice, and you've had to deal with this particular population, which is actually the majority in Venice, right?
Is Rick there?
Rick?
Hello? So, Herb, are you saying about 20% of the 53,000 are the severely mentally ill or on a continuum?
I'd say they have mental ill issues. I wouldn't say they were the severest. That's probably more like under 10%, really.
Okay. So still we're down to 5,000 people, 5,000 psychotic people on the streets of LA every night. I'm trying to get the problems sifted. I hate calling it a homeless problem. Yeah. It's not a homeless problem.
It's a mental health problem.
It's a mental health problem and an addiction problem. Now, the half that you're good at dealing with, Herb, they're just plain old garden variety alcoholics and drug addicts who've had a difficult, traumatic, back and forth relationship with life. I believe I was part of that population. I was homeless for 2 years. I went to the LA County Jail for 43 days. I came out and I turned my life around. So that part of the population, I think, has been consistently chooses to be homeless or couch surf and go from motel to motel because they just want to get high.
Yeah.
Once they get into a supportive, once something happens in them,
they shift.
And they get exposed to someone like Herb or me, the 12-step community. They will change.
Right.
Yes.
The other half, now let's divide up. The other half, we're saying 10% of that other half, 5,000, are the psychotic and mentally ill. The one I
Okay.
described by my house who ended up stabbing the girl from CSI. I called the police and talked to them 3 times about him.
Correct. And
Right?
those are the ones that are endangering themselves and the entire population
So it's
of LA County.
5,000. That's a lot of psychotic people on the streets of LA every night.
And the rats outnumber them 50-1.
So
Yes.
So then the other part of the population that I think we're talking about are veterans and trauma survivors and elderly. It's a tragedy. Those people, it seems to me, the government and the city of Los Angeles and the county of LA and the state of California and the United States of America owe those people housing, medical care, mental health benefits, and food.
That's the SRO idea.
Yes.
Well, I think they owe them the chance to achieve housing. I don't think they permanently owe them housing if they're able to, with education and training and health, get back on their feet.
Right. They should.
Right.
I think
But they're entitled to benefits.
I agree with
They're
her.
entitled to benefits. And I think a lot of times when I've had one of that population, they're in their 60s, they're vets, they are drug addicted. They have a sad luck story about their life they had before in Torrance. Those types of guys, and they have PTSD severely, and their drug of choice usually is stimulants.
Well.
When you get one of them in your lap, you know, as a chemical dependency counselor like me, I'm outgunned here. There's so many problems of which I don't even know how to address.
Well, one of them is neurological, if they've been doing meth for a while.
It's crack. It used to be.
It used to be. Now
crack.
it's meth.
But I used to send them to the drop-in center in Westwood at the VA building, and a lot of them turned their lives around.
Sure.
So it's a matter of connecting the dots for that population.
Well, it's the warm
too.
handoff. That warm handoff is everything. It's that you got.
Well, I always say that homelessness is a series of broken relationships.
Yes.
And if you address it from that perspective, whether it's mental health, physical health, spiritual, governmental, education, employment, housing, with the landlord, there's something went wrong. And when we look at that at the mission, we say, what are the problems that this person is dealing with that we need to help put them back on track? And many of them come from, bad education. We give GEDs. We're working on that all the time because people went through the system. They were socially promoted just to, nice, keep going, you're old enough. And then they get out, they can't read the job application. They can't even fill out their time card, for crying out loud.
Right.
And the society has failed them, I think, in holding them accountable to learn and also giving the skill sets to be able to be successful.
I'm just mostly interested in talking about the population that we call the homeless because I want people to understand that is not the right term for this.
Yeah.
So you have the mentally ill, the psychotically mentally ill. You have the drug addicted and those people that kind of choose that way of life.
You
have the fragile and elderly and former vets with PTSD.
And you have the down on your luck.
And you have
sort of people that have had a bad turn.
So let's look at it from a different angle, Herb. How many of the population would you say have formerly been imprisoned?
Ooh.
Herb?
That's another important.
Yes, I'm trying to. I don't know the number of the 53,000 homeless. I know that the people who come to us, probably about 70% of them have been incarcerated at some point.
How much?
70%. So now you're looking at the criminal justice system. So they're convicted felons. Nobody will employ them because they're convicted felons. Correct? I mean,
right.
That's a big stigma.
Well, should they still be in prison, some of these people? Or
some of them should.
Yeah. So is that Prop 57, Prop 47? Or
that's another show altogether.
That's another show.
Well, what percentage should still be in prison?
It's hard. It depends. It depends on the people you call real criminals. And I say a lot of them own rehabs at this point.
Yes.
Drew has this sociopathy idea about criminality, that there are people that fall into crime and then there's people that are just genetically predisposed to crime.
There are really hardcore criminals and they're not really treatable. They're not treatable. And I kind of know them when I come across them.
No, they get sober and then they start rehabs. I've seen it.
That's sociopath. But that's a requisite to be a criminal.
But I do believe that a lot of the population I've dealt with in the last 10 to 15 years have drug convictions that really marked them, Herb, to be unemployable the rest of their life. And now they're in their 50s. They've been in and out of prison, and they're unemployable when they're out of prison. So they just use their time out on the streets to get high and go down to Skid Row and find a gal and run around for 6 months or a year until they get caught and go back to prison. And a lot of them call going back to prison going back home.
Yes, I know that. But on the other hand, there's another group that they have no option. Or when they come to us, they realize there's something better, and we do help them work through those broken relationships that I've talked about.
Yeah.
And
they need
maybe it's
love.
drug and
That's
alcohol addiction. Maybe it's a predisposition addiction to crime.
Yeah.
But, we work with them to get their records taken care of and expunged where it's appropriate.
Okay.
And try to get them employable and give them the skills to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I believe that's possible in a large number of the cases. Now,
I agree.
The emergency, the public health emergency, is in the psychotic group. That's an emergency right now. They're going to be dead. There's going to be more infectious disease, and it's going to endanger the entire population of Southern California. Right. I'm telling you.
It already does on a certain level.
Well, we're having a typhus outbreak, which I've been predicting for 6 months. We're in it. Pasadena, officially epidemic proportion, officially. And I'm telling you, it's going to be followed with more and more serious and more contagious problems because humans congregated in one place with no sanitation. You've heard of the plagues in the 15th century? That's how that happened. And so that will happen again. We are in it now. So that's an emergency. Then that's a mental health emergency. It's not a homeless emergency, right? And unless we deal with it as such and help these people by what we've done so far, expanding conservatorship, doing what Kathryn wants to do with expanding gravely disabled, and we can then go help them and have,
But unless you get the other side on board, you're just going to have a bunch of lawsuits, and you know that. The ACLU is going to sue every conservatorship that they put onto the record. This is going to be settled in the courts, and we have to have a bipartisan agreement on what to do about our city.
What are you recommending?
You need to go to the left and say, what are your solutions, and can we come together? But nobody's leader enough to do that. That's what I'm saying. I don't think Eric is, for sure. I'm not saying he is.
London Breed.
But somebody needs to lead.
Well, Kathryn is doing it, and other of the we'll break in a second, and other of the county supervisors, they've been leading. And
they still can't get the trash cleaned up on this one street in downtown LA. It's uninhabitable.
Because of the city, and the leader of the city is fearful of getting something against his presidential bid, but that's okay. London Breed in San Francisco has been very active and she gets her legs cut out from under her by people who I think personally, again, should be held accountable for harming people. You make decisions that harm people, you should be held accountable. I am. You would be. Why aren't they? That's all I'm saying. Then this will all stop, and then we'll be able to help people.
The way you hold politicians accountable is you vote them out.
We're in a crisis, and believe me, when epidemic typhus starts rampaging across the land, well, then something will happen. But how many people are going to have to be harmed in the meantime? We have to take a little break. We'll be right back.
With Rick Swinger.
Okay. One of the most crucial components of addiction recovery is accountability. Part of what makes addiction so difficult is the inability to self-regulate. Now, this is especially problematic for those in outpatient recovery or pain management program. And while the facilities require regular urine tests to ensure compliance, frequently the actual tests are not even observed. And this led to an epidemic of falsified samples where patients either use someone else's urine or widely available synthetic urine. The result is a lot of addicts carry right on using undetected, and they get none of the benefits from treatment. The only objective test we have for addiction is the urine screen. Now, recently, I learned about a new solution that virtually eliminates the possibility of faking tests, even in facilities where they are unobserved. This is called Tox Protect, a DNA-verified drug test and lab service that provides 100% sample authenticity. Tox Protect was created by Genetox Labs. Can be used in place of any standard urine drug test. It starts with simple one-time cheek swab to establish the patient's identity. Once submitted, each subsequent screening uses DNA testing to verify that that sample matches the patient. In addition, Tox Protect screens for synthetic urine and irregular values that would indicate dilution or other adulteration. In other words, this pretty much guarantees accountability. I'm excited to see this service being used, and I think it will significantly improve an addict's chances for successful recovery. I'm going to be talking more about Genetox Labs and Tox Protect on future shows. Thankfully, Tox Protect is being used by more and more facilities every day. Be sure to ask for it by name wherever you or your loved one is receiving care. To get more information or share it with your facilities, go to drdrew.com/toxprotect. That is drdrew.com/toxprotect. Well, you know how I love our friends at Hydrolyte. Look, even if you are training indoors, dehydration is a real issue. Amateurs, pros, we all have it. Water and sports drinks do not do enough for rehydration. I strongly suggest you stay ahead of your hydration with Hydrolyte. The best way to stay hydrated was the proper balance of glucose, sodium, and water. And Hydrolyte does this better than anything else out there, I'm telling you. Everyone swears by it. Everyone in the training community, it just does it better and does it without as much calories. And it does it faster, and whether it's rehydration, recovery from exercise or illness, whatever it is, I've been recommending it to family, friends, patients, other physicians. It comes in great flavors like orange, berry, and lemonade, and is available as a premixed drink, powder, or my personal preference, the effervescent tablets. You simply drop in a glass of water. Certainly, the Pinsky family does not leave home without them, literally. Compared to sports drinks, Hydrolyte delivers up to 4 times the electrolytes with 75% less sugar. The solutions are appropriate for all ages, and each bottle or package includes easy-to-follow dosing instructions. So you can find Hydrolyte at Rite Aid or at hydrolyte.com/drdrew. And for a limited time, our listeners save 30% on Hydrolyte. Just click the banner on the website at drdrew.com. Use the code DRDREW18 at checkout. That's hydrolyte.com/DRDREW, and use the checkout code DRDREW18.
There you go.
We are back. We, of
Very
course,
passionate break we just had.
I know. We have Herb Smith, CEO of Los Angeles Mission, who is literally doing God's work
every day.
Every day, and has for years, and we thank him. And again, the fundraiser is Help, Hope, and Opportunity. It's Thursday. And the website, again, if you would like to give.
LOVE, right?
That's it, 18.givesmart.com.
Oh, I like that. Just remember,
and we're going to honor Dr. Drew. We're
smart.
excited about that
I'm
as well.
going to go do a little help with them on Sunday. So.
And we were able to tap the Venice.
Yeah, we've got Rick.
Got Rick?
So, Rick,
Rick,
there?
are you there?
Hello.
Oh,
How's
my
everybody
gosh,
doing today?
Hey, Rick. And so you've had difficulty in Venice where the psychotic homeless individuals, which we've been talking about as a immediate crisis, has been really a critical issue. Rick?
What happened, Rick?
It sure is. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah,
sure
I can
is.
hear you.
Yep.
It's Bob and Drew.
Oh, hello. Yes, it's a serious problem here. All right. I've been attacked myself, and my neighbors have. And I got to tell you, I went down to the town hall meeting, and I talked with Eric Garcetti, and about my website here, Stop Illegal Dumping in Venice Beach, which I started 2.5 years ago because I noticed a cesspool that was right next to a playground with no warning signs. And we have a dysfunctional government right now, and they're just not doing very much here to help the pollution and whatnot. And the mental cases are all over, and they need help. And there's no help available for them right now, unfortunately. And this MTA lot that they're going to make into a big campsite is just going to worsen the problem.
Well, if they give them the proper services, it won't, Rick. The problem is they don't want them, and we can't urge it, and so that's the issue.
Rick, can you tell me? I want to know a little bit about the landscape of Venice. I don't really understand it. So, right near the 10 freeway, there is that great homeless shelter that's within the city of Santa Monica, I believe. It's a great, all supportive kind of mental health, counseling, licensed social workers, food every day. Do you know the building I'm talking about that's right near 4th Street and the 10 freeway?
Yes.
So it seems like the services are there that are so great, but yet there's this outbreak of violence and homelessness 3 miles away south in Venice. What is that? Why is that? Why is that happening?
Well, because they're allowed to camp on the sidewalks and by residents, and that's what they prefer to do. They do not want to go into shelters. I took a look, a demonstration there at the town hall, and they have all these cubicles, okay, with maybe 50 people in these boxes. And I got to tell you, mental health is the number one problem that we're facing in the United States. And if we don't fix that, we're not going to fix anything, including the homeless population, okay? Because these guys are sleep deprived. And if you go in there, you're going to have somebody snoring. You're going to have somebody crying. You're going to have somebody throwing up. And it's not conducive to sleep. and everybody will go crazy if you don't sleep. Okay, and it's true. And I've had mental problems myself. I have had insomnia, and I couldn't sleep for 6 weeks, and I was walking around talking to myself with the rest of them.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, if you have a mental illness out there, that it will get better. Okay.
Oh, sure.
You've got to get treatment.
That's the point.
And and you have to get treatment, and it will get better. And a lot of times, you have so much anxiety, you cannot stay in a shelter. You have to stay separated. And one thing about these tents, they separate you from other people. But unfortunately, there isn't a place to put these tents. And they put them on the sidewalk next to residents. Of course, now we're facing them, and we're not doctors ourselves. We don't know how to handle the situation, and then we get in violent confrontations. And then the trash that they throw around here, it goes down our storm drains and pollutes our beach. And we have rats like you wouldn't believe. We got a public storage with all these 1,800 storage units without any recycling centers. And this is where the LAPD wants to put the homeless, is right by this storage that has a dumping problem. So all this stuff gets dumped on the homeless next to our storm drains. They got rats, and the homeless feed the rats. So they're all domesticated like they're pets. And it's very scary.
That's going on like crazy, yeah. And the rats carry disease.
Yeah,
so the rats have disease in this part of the world. Lots of it, everybody.
Exactly.
I don't
and I've been talking about this for 2.5 years on my Stop Illegal Dumping in Venice Beach. That's the reason why I started this. I fund it myself. And it's pollutions and solutions. And what we're trying to do is bring awareness to this right now. So when I talked to Eric on Wednesday, the first thing I said is you want to help the homeless and the residents at the same time with a very simple thing that will help both of them. He said yes. And I said, I want you to put immediately rat-proof trash cans around here. Because this isn't going to be solved overnight, brother.
Yeah. That's right. You need to deal with the rat problem first. I totally agree with you, Rick, because that's the part that's going to endanger the entire population.
What happens, Rick, if you call the police, say somebody's in a tent outside your front door on the Venice Boardwalk. If you call the police, what do the police do? What do LAPD do?
Well, it depends on the time because, they're all strangled with this Jones settlement, And I said, well, what time is it? Well, if it's after 9 p.m. and before 6 a.m., well, they can have their tent there, but they have to barricade it down at 6 a.m. And of course, they don't do that. And but they're not usually right in front of your house.
But wait a minute. So I'm in Malibu a lot, right? I work in Malibu. They don't allow tents on the Malibu beach. How's that, Drew? How's that?
On the streets, they do.
No. He's talking about on the boardwalk of Venice. That's the beach.
You're talking about the streets or the beach, right?
He's talking about the beach. You're talking about the sidewalk by the beach, right?
I'm talking about both. Right now, they are on the sand at the beach. If you prefer the sand at the beach, you can go there for free camping, or you can come down to the sidewalk.
But they don't allow camping just 10 miles north in Malibu where all the wealthy people live. What law is up there that is not in the city of Venice? Because I guarantee you try to sleep in a tent. If you try to sleep on a tent in the beach of Point Doom, you will be arrested and taken to jail.
So listen to the settlement that Venice City
Okay,
had.
What happened? Rick?
Well, okay, here's the thing. The LAPD ran over accidentally somebody that was on the beach. So, they lost their vehicles and there was a time period where they're waiting to get these ATV types that would be much better suited for the sand, and you won't run over too many more people. And you'll be able to knock on these guys' doors and say, hey, listen, man, you're on the beach. This is a park. Okay, this is park and recreation, guys. You got to move over, closer to Rick's house.
Right, to the sidewalk.
Come on over closer to me.
Go to the sidewalks. So hold on.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to Herb. So Herb, here's what is so disturbing to me as a physician. If somebody was lying on the street, foaming in the mouth, or short of breath and having chest pain, they would get taken to the hospital.
With or without their will?
Correct.
Right.
We have the same thing going on all over this town as it pertains to brain disorders. And we have decided to treat those differently. And I think –
because they have rights. Because of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest made everybody think mental hospitals are the worst place in the world.
And this is
right.
It's unconscionable. It is immoral.
Right.
It's killing people. It's endangering not just the homeless population or languishing on the streets, but the entire general population who will eventually get the rat-borne infectious disease outbreaks. It will. It has to happen. It's the nature of biology. And we have a government that's sitting by and watching that happen. I can't imagine. I want people held accountable just the way I would be if I hurt people. And I think it's the only way. It's the only way it's going to change.
But I think also we need to understand the individuals on the street. And you're a doctor. You would understand trauma issues, cumulative trauma.
Yeah.
We've been working actually at the mission with Headington Institute, trying to address better services with respect to the idea of cumulative trauma versus the blunt force trauma. What's going on in the brain? How can we better serve the individuals who come to us, whether they come into our program or they come in for guest services? What are these issues? And I think as a community, we still don't fully understand it. We talk about housing and we say if we put up too many houses, all the homeless people are going to come, and you have this vision of 50 people with shopping carts and a bunch of black plastic bags moving next door. That's not the typical person who is experiencing homelessness. And so we've got to have a civil dialogue, I agree, on both sides to address how do we legitimately help people who cannot help themselves, and then hold accountable the people who do for their actions, just like I do my kids, and you perhaps would do yours.
Oh, so perhaps. Sheesh.
But
my patients, and I held my patients accountable.
The population has been there. I've been doing benefit shows for the homeless in Los Angeles for 22 years, Drew. Yeah, so the fact that it's gone over conservative and Democrat and liberal and back and forth, and everybody just keeps handing the ball as the problem grows and grows and grows. Now all of a sudden, it's this mayor that needs to go to jail for it. I don't understand that kind of thing.
It is a crisis. I hope your kids are well when we go through it. And
there's no reason to threaten my kids because you don't like Eric Garcetti.
I like Eric Garcetti. Actually, I do.
Well, Eric Garcetti needs to take a history and biology class, same way with my councilman Mike Bonnet.
You know what, Rick? That is exactly my point. That is precisely my point, that biology mandates this. History teaches us this, and
explain the biology again. I walked out, but you didn't mention that yet.
Look, we have reservoirs of flea-borne illnesses that the reservoirs on the rodents, the rats. We've now massively expanded the rodent population because we've allowed sanitation to break down. We didn't have a sanitation breakdown problem before. We have people languishing; they're suffering. We chose to ignore that. Great. And now we've allowed sanitation to break down, which is the breakdown of civilization. That's what that is. And the rodent populations have massively overpopulated. With them come fleas. With them comes disease. I knew typhus would be the first because that's one of our reservoirs.
No, the other thing that Chrissy got was the first. The from touching
norovirus.
Poo. Yeah, norovirus.
Hepatitis A. Well, because norovirus is volatilized.
You touch poo and then you get sick.
No, you don't touch it. You breathe it. It's volatilized. It's volatilized off the poo.
I have personally experienced that, Susan.
Well, still in Yosemite.
Right. And so plague appears in Southern California once in a while. And something like that, whether it's epidemic typhus or one of our other rodent-borne vector pathogens.
It's like Mexico.
No other country on earth has this.
Oh.
Every other country deals with this. We are the only city that has allowed its sanitation and civilization to break down, and we are pretending it's not happening. And I'm trying to sound the alarm.
Well, I know
and
there's
in
a
the
lot
meantime,
of needles,
the first to go are going to be the homeless. They're going to get hit the hardest,
right?
Because they are at ground zero with this.
Isn't that what everybody wants, though? I mean, that's the way it seems.
Well, I hope not, because that's unconscionable.
I know, but that's the way it seems.
Well,
and so take care of itself.
And so the fact that as a physician, I'm seeing this unfold. And if I said to you, Bob, if you drive fast or you through there, you're going to kill somebody. You drive fast anyway and do it. You're going to be held accountable with consciousness of with what do they call it when you know what's going to happen and you do it anyway. I've been sounding the alarm for months and months and months, and we're continuing to do so, and nothing is changing. And so there's going to be, and now we have the typhus, and soon we'll have something else. Kathryn has shown some leadership. Herb is down there fighting the good fight. But unless we help these poor people who their brain diseases prevents them from getting well, if we don't have some way of exerting that and cleaning up the rodent situation, and the sanitation problem.
So Venice is much smaller.
What about the needles? There's all these needles.
Needles are an issue. But there's no vector. Hang on, but Susan, there's no vector to needles. You understand? Needles are piled up where the homeless are. Yeah. But rats are how many?
Spreading.
What's happening in our house?
I know we have rats everywhere.
Okay, every community.
Every day.
You are so right, Dr. Drew. And not only the rats, we also have to pay a close attention to mosquitoes because that's also.
Well, you're right. I hadn't thought about that, but there are the point is there are vectors in Southern California that will spread these things, and they are profound and they're epidemics, and we are letting this happen.
Easy to get rid of.
Rats?
Yeah.
Impossible.
No.
Poison. Yeah, it is. You could. My father-in-law is doing it very well in his backyard right now.
Bob, Susan,
There's
is it?
2 dead rats I got last weekend. I had to scoop it up with a rake.
Susan, how many rats per day are we finding?
We have at least 1 or 2 a day in our house. We finally were able to poison them on the outside of the house, but I think now they're coming crawling into the.
We've never had them before. 1 or 2 a
day.
We went to the VNC meeting and we saw
Figueroa.
rats inside the school. And the reason why the rats were inside the VNC meeting is because we have no maintenance over there on the sidewalks. These trees are lifting up the cement sidewalks and making perfect nests for rats.
We have a
because
lot of
the
trees.
only predator of rats right now are cats, and they can't get in there.
We can't have
cats. I mentioned that on one of my blogs. And right before the meeting, they were able to
be careful, Rick, because the cats also carry the fleas that carry the typhus. and so it's very difficult.
Pit bulls.
Yeah, so it's complicated, but how bizarre.
I don't think it's that complicated. When I started noticing the trash in Skid Row, it was about 2 years ago, I thought they just need to get a tractor down here like they used to when I lived here in 1983. I lived on 5th and Wall in 1983. They used to just come by with a big, huge tractor and just push all the homeless tents and all the trash down the street. Then they had a big truck, and then they just lifted it up in, and then they had these back then they just put these rat pellet things all the way down the street, and then there was dead rats in the street.
I remember I used to live down there too, or actually work down there. Remember that, Susan? 9th and Wall at California Apparel News.
Oh, yes.
But listen,
and
but here's the deal.
We go way back.
How bizarre is it that in 2013, in a major urban environment where people are languishing on the streets, that we're having this conversation?
But why can't they do that anymore?
I agree with you, Drew. You're absolutely right. I was at the Philippines. I was in donate because I'm retired now. And I was going to donate some time over there to the Philippines because they have a pollution problem over there. And then one day I looked through my window. I said, oh, my God, this looks like third world conditions here. And then all of a sudden I realized it is third world. In fact, Mexico has cleaner beaches than we do here. Okay?
So
because the humans try to go to the bathroom in a place that's
so let's calm down. We've all had our spin.
No, we need the old-fashioned solution and let the cards fall where they may. And I believe the cards are twofold. They're political cards for liberal politicians, and they are legal folds from the ACLU and other do-gooder groups that are going to sue the city for doing the tractors down the road.
Orange County did that on the Santa Ana River.
Right, and they're probably going to be sued till the cows come home.
And they're helping people now. Those people are getting help. They're in temporary housing. No.
I live in Orange County. You know where they congregate? And you're scared to walk with your children in Laguna Beach. They congregate. That population of homeless right by the lifeguard station, we're going to see Jason next weekend, he can tell you, is frightening. They're on meth. They're violent. They fight with each other in front of me and my children. So they just migrated to different parts of Southern California, Orange County.
That is true.
And Laguna is perfect because it has, the interesting thing, has a conservative population and a liberal politic. So they don't want to pay taxes, but they don't want to do anything about the homeless population. I guarantee you, Laguna will become like Venice is within the next year unless somebody takes action.
So again,
the
only guy that's actually fighting the good fight is Herb. So we need to support Herb.
Yes.
That is an immediate
now.
solution. Immediate solution.
I'm giving him money next
We
week.
also need to fund. We need to fund the health department, Vector. Okay, they're highly underfunded.
Yeah.
There's very few people that are actually going out there and inspecting for rat infestations.
Right.
Okay, it's a big city.
Yeah,
There's a
who
lot
has
of
to clean
warehouses.
this up?
There's a lot of rats, and if we don't get more people in there, inspectors on this, we're just going to have a worse and worse problem.
Well, the CDC could help us. I've sent a number of inquiries into them. I'm trying to get some federal attention because when the actual big outbreak occurs, the CDC, trust me, will be involved then, so they can pay us now or pay us later. But are we about?
How about the EPA?
Yes, I didn't think about the EPA, but I think you're right. The EPA might be a
Is there still an EPA?
Yeah, right. Good one. I hope so.
Well, so if we learn nothing else here, support the LA Mission.
I think Bob and Rick could be friends.
But I agree with that.
Yeah.
But LA Mission is actually doing the work. That's actually what needs to be done. As I'll go back to that question I asked a few minutes ago. Feels like a few hours ago. Which was if we could reproduce the LA Mission 5 times, we would be on our way.
We need the Venice mission
our way.
and the Laguna mission.
I have another
The
solution. You
Huntington
make
Beach
County USC Hospital a mental health and addiction facility for the entire city of Los Angeles.
We need a new name.
And you need this conservatorship that Representative Kathryn was talking about. You get conserved, you get sent there, 90-day conservatorship. Give me 90 days with these people when they're not psychotic, when they're not on drugs, and I'll bet you I can make a difference with them.
I bet you're right. And the ones that are not drug addicts that need medication, please, dear God, give us the ability to help these poor people. Please. We're begging.
Mental illness
We are
is
begging
That's the
our
number
government.
one.
Think about that. I'm a physician begging my government to let me help these people. Think how sick that is.
There's
That's
another
disgusting.
group of the population that's suing the government saying, let these people be free.
Yeah. So, and they're the ones that I'm begging to allow us to help. So here we are. In the meantime, we need a new name for psychiatric hospital. We need a very creative, new agey name. Camp Homeless, Camp Psych, I don't know, something. In the meantime,
Bob's House. Let's go.
But also
I like that.
I want to tell everybody I had success with Terminex. They come every day to my house. I pay $500 a year.
Commercial?
And no, I'm telling you, I have this guy named Chris. He shows up with a bucket and he takes the rats out of my house every day. He's marvelous.
But the problem
except
is
for weekends.
Everybody has to do
and
that.
I
Everybody has
medication
to
on my
flea med their
animals.
animals.
You're right.
Everyone's got to do this.
We all have to do that.
Yeah, we all.
How's
like
your coyote,
panics
by
every
the
day.
way?
Coyotes are bad and raccoons are bad. We're not trying to kill them off, but also if you have those in your yard, you should be worried about it.
Well, just to get the flea.
Because the fleas come
No,
off
you
those
know what
animals.
my father-in-law did? Here's a little pointer. He put it inside his air conditioner unit where he knew the rats can get in there, but cats, dogs, raccoons can't get in there, and they're just dying like rats out in the yard every day.
Well, we finally did that because I didn't want him to come in the
put
house
it somewhere
and
that other animals can't get, but the rats get there.
No, Bob, it's cool. It's like a plastic container with little holes on the side, and only the rats can get in.
Right.
And I
I
did a great. We
got to get rid of the rats, people.
But Terminex is good, and I'm very proud.
We have gone completely.
I
off
love
the
my
rail.
rat guy. I love my rat
rail.
guy.
Rick,
that's what a complicated problem gets
I'm
you
gonna
to do.
Can we get back to the bugs?
Yeah, I'm gonna get Rick. We're gonna let you go. I thank you for fighting the good fight, Rick. Thank you, Rick.
Herb and
I want to give
Herb to be here.
Herb last words. Herb last words, please, because get us sane again, Herb, please.
Yes, thank you. The Los Angeles Mission and so many others exist to help the homeless, whether they're mentally ill, whether they're drug addicted, whatever it is that's caused their situations. We do homeless differently. Back to the issue of the typhus outbreak, one of the things we do at the mission is a bug check for individuals who come in and stay with us every night. And sometimes we get criticized for that because it can be a little personal, but it it takes care of the safety of all the individuals staying in our facility.
And Herb, not only that, the next thing is going to be a lice-borne illness. That's what's next.
Oh, God,
that's next on the list. And so you're taking care of that, is saving their lives.
We take care of the ladies and gentlemen with lice. I can tell you
saving
they do that every day, and they're taking care of our community.
Yes.
So.
Lice at Elvis's school.
Yeah.
That's kids. It's a little different.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
Babies have lice.
You're making me paranoid, Drew. I don't want to take a shower.
Yeah. Am I hallucinating? Am I in some sort of weird altered state?
This is the world of Dr. Drew.
Have I entered
I just come into it once a week.
I think I've entered some parallel universe, but there's one sane person here. It is Herb, and I will see him. I will see him on Thursday. All right, Herb?
Absolutely,
All right,
looking forward
I'll
to
see
it.
you
And in
then.
the meantime, let's build those relationships that are broken with those individuals on the street in any way that we can.
It is all about that. Is the warm handoff. It's Mitch Englander put up showers. It took 14 contacts an hour on average just to get one homeless in a shower, and he was willing to put in the time to make those relationships. We all have to do that. Thanks, Herb. We'll see you again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
See you next time. All right, that's about it for this episode of This Life. Check us out at KBC, being Lawrence Savon, 790 Midday Live Talk Radio, Monday to Friday. You can also tune in every day live via the magic of the internet at kbc.com. If you miss it, we've made it simple for you to find all the shows at drdrew.com, the Adam and Dr. Drew podcast, the Sing What I Do By Myself, Dr. Drew podcast, This Life, of course, with Bob, Swole Patrol, Mike Catherwood, his new health and fitness podcast. You can find us on Twitter at This Life Podcast, at Dr. Drew, Derry W, at Rehab Bob Forrest, and of course, our lovely producer at First Lady of Love. I think I know who that is. If you love this show, please subscribe and tell a friend. We appreciate it when you do. We'd love to hear your feedback as well. Send us a message. Join the email list at drdraw.com/contact. You'll also get a weekly email from us on that. While you're at it, at drdrew.com, please support our sponsors by clicking through the banners. We only advertise products that I can get behind. So thank you for supporting them, those that support us. And thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.